Hey everyone, it's Ryan here, and it's been a minute in terms of doing these videos, but we're back. And today we're going to be taking a look at Benny Greb's signature brass snare drum. This video is going to be focused a bit more on how practical this drum is in a live situation. For me, I've been gigging with it for the last 2 to 3 years and I've not used anything else. So it's a drum that I feel really passionate about for its kind of flexibility in a live environment. So I did originally own the first version of Benny's snare, which was just a beach shell offering, and it's a great sounding drum. But for some reason I was just changing snares and sold it. And this one came about secondhand, as you do when you're got too much time on your hands, you're browsing the internet and you just see one come up that's basically brand new but at a reduced cost, so I naturally had to go for it. But since getting it, I actually consider it to be like an invaluable snare for me personally. Since the first generation, the hardware is massively improved. For starters, they've now put these vintage Sonor lugs, which are a much kind of sleeker, quite a bigger lug compared to the original design. For me, I love the way that these look. They're kind of, I don't know, sort of look a bit like saber-tooth claws or something, the way they peek down. But that's just me being a bit strange. They have the tune safe system in them, I think. Basically, the rods feel very secure and the tuning's extremely smooth. So first of all, they are great. I think the hoops are kind of the same as the first generation, so just sort of standard triple flange, but for me, no complaints. The other massive improvement is the throw off. So it's actually the, I don't know if you can see it there, the ProLite system, which has got this kind of dual piston glide thing. It's like classic German engineering of the most complicated throw-off I've ever come across on a drum. But that being said, in terms of releasing it and bringing it up, it's like buttery smooth. It's like the quietest, smoothest throw-off I've ever come across. With those hardware features alone, I think this drum is already like a really great improvement on the first generation of this snare. But it even has more party tricks than that. So here we have a kind of like it's like an internal dampener, and those have been on snares for a long time. That's not necessarily new. But the way this is engineered, it's actually more on a rail, so it just vertically travels up and down the snare drum. Originally the sort of normal designs are like you tighten the knob and it kind of bends the muffler against the top head, and for some reason for me that always felt a bit strange. You could never get it just to go flat. It was always like only a tiny bit of the felt would touch. With this, it's much more the whole flat sort of surface area of the pad. When you lift it up, the whole thing just goes flat on the head. It's really well designed, and hats off to Benny for, you know, obviously spending the time to really think about these additions. There's 2 rail dampener options. The only caveat to having all this great hardware on here is it does build the weight up quite a lot. It's a 13-inch drum, so that is obviously less weight than, say, a 14, but the hardware on here definitely trumps that. I would say this is kind of like, it's not like bell brass weight, you know, it's not like you don't have to brace yourself every time you lift it, but you are probably going to need a decent, you know, mid to pro level snare stand to just hold it, so it's not going to start like pulling the stand down as you play it and that kind of thing. The other thing for me that definitely attracted my sort of magpie vision and made me want to buy it was the brass finish being this kind of aged patina thing, where it looks a bit more like on close inspection you can really see the different like hues and colours in the brass, which is really nice. And then I think it's like some kind of laser etched band around it. And then obviously they've kind of lacquered it, so they've just preserved it as it is, which is cool. But yeah, I love the look of that brass being a bit more antique flavoured. The visual kind of finish on it is really classy, I think. So for the demos on this snare, first of all, I wanted to record it literally as I have it tuned for gigs, which is kind of a bit, from what I understand of like tuning in the past, where I've always tried to get every lug to be the same pitch. For gigs, actually, what I tend to do, and I don't think it's, you know, there's plenty of people that do this. I will definitely, like the two lugs that are closest to me, the one on the right side, I will back off maybe like a quarter turn or half turn compared to everything else. And then the sort of lug just slightly off to the left, I will really detune it to the point where it's not rattling. It's probably like it's touching the rim and then maybe a quarter or a half turn up. It's definitely way lower than the rest of the drum. And again, in a live scenario, I'm not really close miking the snare a great deal. So that while there may be some like strange overtones that crop up with that, in the room, what it does is it kind of just makes it a bit warmer and a bit less active with the overtones. So a lot of that ring that can sometimes be a little bit, can make a snare in a certain ring feel a bit like blows your ears off. This tends to kind of down tune it, that the decay of the note sort of goes boom. This kind of makes it a bit like sounding a bit more like I've got like a big fat snare drum on there or something. So that was the tuning as I have it set for gigs. What I want to do now is use like more traditional tuning where I'm trying to match the pitch of every lug. And for all these variety of tunings, I'm going to give you some options. So I'll have it with the dampeners off and then I'll engage them as well so you can kind of hear what the internal options are with the dampening. So I hope you enjoyed this demo of this snare drum, and I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think of the sound. But I'd also like to ask you how important for you is like the hardware on a drum. Do you need it to be functional and allow you to adjust things, or do you not really care? Do you just put it on there and start playing? As always, I appreciate you watching, and a like and subscribe would really mean a lot if you did enjoy the video. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode of the Snare Drum Showcase.